item on the agenda is general public comment. Anybody out there that'd like to make? Seeing none, approval of July meeting minutes.
I move the approval of the minutes as presented.
Have a motion for approval of minutes. All those in favor, I'll second that, sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Staff report, Dusty.
Staff report.
All you.
All right, so we had an exciting month. We had a posted media link to a news story. We posted that the grant cycle was open after many postings that our website had been down for weeks. We did upload the July meeting video, and then we posted that the August agenda had been posted. Story, we were merged in with the Oil and Gas Agency pushes BLM headquarters here. Story. Didn't know it was still a story, and I didn't know we were going to be merged together. But so yeah, we announced that we were doing our grant cycle, and I interviewed with KREX, and so we did an interview with KREX, and then they merged it in and the push to keep the Oil and Gas Agency here. I was like, okay, so we had media.
They don't realize what an odd merge that was.
I was like, okay, that's great. We didn't have any grants payable to sign. We still just have the 2 outstanding. Our invoices for July are Dusty Reimer invoice 162 for services and supplies for $2,690. Dufford Waldeck invoice 26686 for services $1. I Bailey invoice EI 01190328 for $1,800.96. And we have 2 invoices for Alpine Computer Solutions. One for the actual computer work of $500 getting the website back up. The other one is $359.40 for year-long hosting services. I also received an invoice RFP from ACS Business Solutions. We had several issues with Alpine Computer Solutions, and it wasn't until I spoke with ACS that I found out exactly what was wrong. And then after I relayed that to Alpine Computer Solutions, they miraculously found a solution, and it didn't involve rebuilding a website or costing $3,000. So Janet had suggested I'd like to move off of Alpine Computer Solutions. I agreed after dealing with them for 2 weeks and not getting any response, and then all I was being told was that we were going to need to complete the website, and we didn't need to. There's a quote on there to fix the WordPress theme that we won't need anymore, so it would just be a hosting service with the platform. So it would be to integrate it over to ACS, and then it would be the side, which is the same thing.
So you want to, not clear. So
Okay.
we are paying Alpine or we're not?
We are. We did just get an invoice finally after months of asking for an invoice.
So that's for in the back, but going forward, you want to accept this?
Yes.
Want to do?
Yes. So we can,
They're not the same company?
They're not the same company.
I use, yeah, for sure. I host my web, my phone, my.
All of your web pages?
Just the one. And they take care of, they have kept me out of trouble. Actually, 2 of them. And they've kept me out of trouble. I mean, they do a good job. It has been painless with them.
Good.
Yeah.
And they're.
Yeah.
5 minutes of talking to him on Friday after 2 weeks with Daniel. All we could do was rebuild the website, and he's been saying that for a year. John looked it up and said, I don't understand what the problem is. Your theme has always been updated. In fact, the current update is in July, it's this month. And he says maybe $60 to just update the theme. Then after I told Daniel that we found that there is a theme update and it's about $60, that we don't need to read the website, is when I finally started looking into it and found that there was indeed, in fact, an update that could be done.
There's no auto renew of agreement with Alpine?
It has been kind of just on this auto renew, like yearly. So when we had done the RFPs 2 years ago to move off of the hosting service that we had previously that we were having, we got a quote from Merge 2 Media here locally at Mackenzie Data Solutions. Of the 3 Alpine Computer Solutions, this was the most offering. I have literally had to ask him repeatedly for invoices that he doesn't give. He just finally sent this one over Friday morning, right before the invoice was due for the board packet again. And he had been saying over and over again that, you know, he's not getting paid. And I said, send me an invoice, I can't send you money. So it's been...
Not a recipe for success.
It's not, it's really not. And then he didn't even know what he was billing us for, to be honest. So he put on there that he was paying for us to renew our hosting server name too. And I said, we paid for that for 2 years. What is it for? Oh yeah, I just copied and pasted the template. So he's moved on to being a realtor. That was the other thing. So that Friday when he told me that he was going to be out of town with friends and that he couldn't be there, if you pull up his Facebook page, he was doing a live stream of a showing of a house. So, nice guy, he's just not into it anymore.
Okay, so let's be
So
clear here.
we paid him to the end of the year.
We actually haven't paid him at all.
Okay.
So, he sent over the invoice and it's a monthly billing, and that's the invoice that is, it's the invoice that's $359.40. So that invoice is $29.95 a month.
Here for the whole year.
For a year, so that's 12 months.
But we're not paying for the next 12, we're paying for the last 12.
We would be paying from January 2021 until, if we could do it, there's one of 2 ways. We could either go the rest of the year, just finish out the contract, and then just start the new year with ACS. Or we could just pay to the end of August and then transfer over and start ACS, or then go on.
My recommendation is you do actually recommended to me by ACS, but my recommendation was that you do about at least a month in case it happens, because what could happen, what I've seen happen is you tell him you're not going to pay him through the end of the year. He goes out and he pulls everything down and gets rid of all your whole template and site and everything, and then ACS has
This is a public meeting, all he's gotta do is look at the minutes and he's gonna see.
Yeah, but if we pay him through October, I mean, we don't want to cut that close. We want to make sure that we have that presence out there and we can know that everything's ready. ACS computers can turn the switch. And if there's a duplicate out there, it can be found. I have seen most companies, when they switch websites, they leave one out. Just so going, because, and not intentionally, if he just goes down and says, okay, then I can delete, he deletes it.
It's
Leave
not
it on.
Right.
Well, I was just thinking about it, it's $89 to go through the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I think we just pay to go through the end of the year, then.
Start the transition and then.
And if ACS has us switched over in September, then we're double paying for 3 or 4 months, but we're on the safe side of it for not very much money. Now, what about, and the 500, we're not paying him that, but we are paying.
No, so the 500, yeah, the 500, we would pay him that because ACS didn't do that work. They just discovered that if you're gonna upgrade the template, he's like, the template will cost you probably about $60, and then it's the work to get it upgraded into it. So it was fixing all the security issues that were going on because he said that they were outdated, that they didn't do an update, and that's why it was a broken template, which is why we were in the situation we were with the,
That's why the website was
which is why it wasn't working.
So my question is though, so we're gonna pay Alpine 500 and we're gonna pay ACS 500?
No. So it's the same, they're the same company.
Go back to the
So,
ATS.
Alpine Computer Solutions, $359.40 for hosting, and Alpine Computer Solutions for the computer work to get the template updated and the website to work. So that's what those two separate invoices are for.
Go back.
Right, so then the actual ACS Business Solutions, Business Systems, I'm sorry,
We won't pay that last.
we won't pay this one until,
But
we will
won't
start
pay-
this one.
We won't pay that at all.
No, we don't pay that one at all. Yep,
We will pay that for the
Right.
transition,
Okay,
and then,
yep,
got it.
sorry, I know, this, it's the same name, pretty much, it's. Okay, so those are invoices. So the invoice will be, we're gonna pay both the Alpine Computer Solutions invoices for hosting services and computer work, both those invoices. Upcoming events, the fall grant cycle was opened August 1st, everything was on the website, everything was ready to go. It will close September 3rd. I will have your grant writers ready to go that Monday. The September board meeting with grant presentations will be September 15th, followed by our October board meeting where we'll do awards on October 20th with those dates.
So, need a motion?
Yes, sir.
So I move to approve the, staff report and and pay the invoices included therein. Minus the $500.
second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we need another motion to transfer our page to,
It's up to you. I mean, if you're ready to do that, you've got a proposal, that would be fine if you want to give direction to staff.
Move for the acceptance of the ACS, proposal. Move our website services, website hosting.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Look, financial, 15.
As of July 31st.
This one is at $1,170,000. That's payable of $200,000. $1,600,000. Profit and loss. $460. Contract services, $2,600. Auditing expenses of $1,078. Visit membership, $20.98. Unrealized gain in per fund of $14. income of thousand to the city of Mesa, and we're still under the budget for our outside services of $18,000.99. Are showing, over the budget auditing expenses and over the administrative expenses, we're in the budget of
Approve those financials, so we'll, review of the investment account. Right here. Please join us. Today's net gain of 170,560. Else we need to add? Greg, do you have any need for any, have any concerns about our current investment
No, sir.
structure?
Nope. Interesting that Matt doesn't come to these meetings days when the market's down.
Coincidence?
Remember that for the next meeting, Lee, Greg?
We keep feeling a lot of phone calls.
All right, our next item is approval of an amended 2021.
As Christine said during the financials, over budget, and it's, getting a little bit into it's just that we didn't have. We were over on the audit, over on the, we have amended. And, yeah.
we adjusted that by $500.
Yeah. And then I think the only other question we had was,
She also was wondering,
Not sure I understand the question.
for the dividends and capital gains.
that's 2020 actual. So this is, yeah, no, that is.
The actual 2020, yeah.
So you want to book, capital gains as an additional, budget, unrealized capital gains as a budget line item. and amend the budget to reflect actual capital gains over and above those that were estimated.
We would amend it by that 4,430.
I mean, so far for our investment income,
Percent, you don't have to be on the money, right? We just have to be within a percent.
Yeah, I mean, you can't exceed, budgeted amounts. You cannot spend more than you have budgeted. And so that if in any particular category, expenses exceed, budgeted amounts, then you have to do an adjusting resolution to bring those back into balance. The level of detail, is sometimes a question. I mean, you can have, a fund that encompasses several different line items. It might go over on one thing and it'd be less than budgeted on another. But as long as the fund balance, that's acceptable. I think that what our staff is doing here is just being really careful to say, look, if we go over on anything, our budget to reflect that. That's the most conservative way to approach
What
that.
would we went ahead and amended dividends and capital gains, what would that number be?
so right now for dividend income, we're under the budget. And then for investment, 1,006.
Not for the whole year, but for at this point in time.
So at this
So that's annualized.
At this time,
I can see.
Oh, absolutely. And also,
Yeah.
we don't really want to get into the habit of amending the budget at every meeting,
Yeah.
because some line item
Goes over, yeah.
So like, it seems to me
Maybe-
like that this goes to like 560, something like that, and give it some.
Maybe what we ought to do is, and a lot of this goes to, our meeting schedule, but if we go to quarterly meetings, I'm thinking the last quarter of the year, October, let's say, that would be the time to amend the budget, because we will have 10 months under our belt, and we will see what our actual expenditures are,
That makes sense.
and we'll know what we're likely looking at through the end of the year. That makes the most sense to me. I think it's good that you guys are keeping track of this,
Oh, absolutely.
because we need to know if we're going over on anything. What I'm a little unclear on is how we book unrealized capital gains. I think investment fees, we definitely should be budgeting for those and
Right.
keeping track of those, because that's part of our.
Unrealized capital gains. I have no clue what that's gonna be till December 31, it can change on December 20th.
That's right, and so you don't know, and I don't know enough about government accounting standards to know, we really need to budget for capital gains. It's not unrealized capital gains, because first off, we're not paying taxes, we're a tax-free entity, and secondly, it's not money that's actually being expended. It's money we have, it's growth in accounts, but it is not an expenditure. So that's, and that's something that maybe you know the answer to that.
so actually for our budget to actual report, the unrealized gain is not included on the know, calculation, it's just life income, which
Yeah.
So maybe we ought to just revisit this in October.
Yeah, I concur with you, just I appreciate how close they're watching us. But, you know, we're trying to cut back on expenses, we cut back on what we pay you and what we pay you, and so the less we can do, the better.
Yeah, and not make additional work for staff, yeah. And we probably could consolidate some of our line items, you know, so we could have a line item for pens or, you know, but we don't. Yeah, the big ones, yeah, that's right. And it's meaningful information. You can see what you're spending for your audit, what you're spending for, you know, insurance, advertising, everything.
Craig, you wanna make the motion? Table it.
Yeah, I move that, we take council's, advice and, delay the, adoption of changes budget till later in the year when we have more clarity.
Do an amended budget resolution as needed.
Discussion of bylaws for board electronic approval. So last meeting, brought up with, actually be coming in soon, but usually if it sticks to what we've had this last year, maybe having quarterly meetings in the spring, if we don't have a lot going on, would be a good thing to do. There's not a lot going on with the beginning of the month. So the only question that came up was monthly invoices.
Talked a little bit to Dusty about that. Your bylaws already authorize quarterly meetings, so that if you guys decide you want to go that direction and have quarterly meetings, all she would have to do would be to do the Open Meetings Act notices of when those meetings are, by posting an electronic notification. But the administrative element to that is, what do we do about bills and invoices that let those things sit around for 3 months at a time. One of the things I suggested is that we authorize, that the district authorize the board chair to make expenditures that are within budgeted items on a monthly basis up to a certain dollar amount, and we could do a board resolution to that effect. A logical one, what might be, say, up to $10,000 or something like that. So that in practice, what it would mean is that on those off months, when Dusty has bills that come in, she reviews them. If they look to be in order, she presents them to Quinn as board chair and asks him to authorize them and authorize to cut checks for each item.
Still review them.
And you review them at the next quarterly meeting, and so you could see everything that's happened over the preceding 3 months. So that was, rather than, I think Janet had suggested maybe we could do an electronic meeting or vote by email. Rather than doing that, I think that may be just more cumbersome. Just authorize the board chair to handle those kind of routine things between meetings. That would probably work. I did prepare, just for discussion, a draft resolution to that effect. If you guys decide you want to do it, you can vote on that today and just say, we want to do this, and Dusty can implement that. But I'll circulate that to you if you guys want to take a look at it. And really, all it does is it says that board chair can sign checks, and we're going to review them on a quarterly basis. Dusty, I should have sent this to you earlier.
Bring it up to speed, Craig, yeah. I think maybe what we do, is look at the, a meeting schedule at the beginning of the year. Obviously gonna need monthly meetings during January to July. We can always call a
Special meeting.
special meeting.
Yeah.
The only, exception that I can think of is if there was something cataclysmic going on in the markets, because we do have $2 million that's hanging out, and that we needed to get together and discuss. But as you say, we could call a meeting and put the speed on that. That'd be the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
And we could call that meeting as long as we had 24-hour posting notice.
And the other could be like if you have a grant that's coming for payment and they absolutely have to have the money by a date
So we
certain.
can get together and prove that.
But the other thought is, some of that could be just training grant recipients to stick to our new whatever meeting schedule, whatever it is, and
It's pretty easy to do one of those.
But, you know, we did have that situation with CNU. We needed to, they basically wanted to change the application.
We can probably do those.
already have that authority, so it doesn't require any affirmative action. You just call a meeting whenever you need to.
Because we even talked about doing a special meeting for that, rather than making them wait. It's gonna be a week until.
And I saw that, from Janet about, a conflict that she has, quarterly. If you wouldn't mind, reach out to her and find it, stuff like that, we just need to move the meeting instead of.
We've always done that. I remember when
Yeah.
David had a quarterly meeting and John had the same.
Yes, no.
We've been virtually. Ready to have her.
Yeah.
Been virtually.
And given the way mineral lease revenue is kind of looking, quarterly may be enough. I mean, it seemed like when the revenues went up and we had a lot of activity, there were always grants needing to be paid, and there was just a lot more going on, and that's not the same as it was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's a great idea.
Maybe we'll get there together, beginning of the year, you know, our last meeting, we'll set a schedule. We'll want to have an August meeting. Just a September
Yeah.
and October.
Right, and then merging, we think we talked about moving November, December, is when we usually are. And finalizing budget.
I think about that schedule. Rather wait to approve this until January.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
What do you
it's
guys
food for thought, and I'm sorry I didn't get this into the packet. Sometimes I'm a little behind the eight ball.
What are your thoughts about this, Chris?
Well, I guess
As long as they're budgeted items.
the only, if I were you, I want that description in number one refined a little bit. Basically, talking about, 3 bills. So, this Alpine ACS thing, what would you have done? If this were, would you have taken that to Quint? Because that was a little cumbersome, if you ask me, about this person, we're not gonna do this part of this, but we are gonna do that part of this, and I'm not sure if I'm Quint, I wanna explain that, I approved that and wrote those checks, but I'm also not sure
Yeah, and you're making a judgment call as to whether this invoice is properly payable, and you wanna, what this is intended to cover are those kinds of routine expenditures, not like, we're gonna make a new, enter into a new contractual relationship with some new vendor or something.
I would have pushed that off.
Yeah.
I don't think that doesn't fit within the budget.
Normal.
That's not what normal budget.
Can I ask one more thing, maybe for clarification too? Mini grants sometimes, have some mini grants come in smaller amounts for progress payments. Do we want to include
Yeah.
paying a mini grant without having a board meeting?
Absolutely. We've
Okay.
already.
We've already
Okay, all
approved that.
right, I just
Yeah,
want to
and
make
that's
sure,
an
because
approved
that's another
expenditure.
thing, you just have to sign the check that it's being presented and it's through.
That's not a new expenditure,
Okay.
that's already approved.
And I would think,
Okay.
if, Dusty's the gatekeeper, she looks at the grant, let's say the grant, reimbursement request comes in and everything looks in order, and we've already approved it and they're on track. If you conclude that it's appropriate, you forward it on to Quint and he can be authorized to sign. And I
We'll
didn't.
go through Christine for control purposes. Christine still sees them too, she gets the checkbook.
That's
So,
right, yeah, we do that.
yeah,
So, and I didn't make this specific as to grant payments, I think it probably could have encompassed grant. But, we could make that recommendation, or that language in there, or insert it and say, yeah, that would include district obligations, including periodic grant payments, and approved grant payments, that specified amount.
Already approved them.
Absolutely.
We cover certain expenditures within budgeted amounts. Your concern on which one, Craig?
I was just like, if I were you, I'd want that tightened down a little bit,
Which-
number one.
And we could just say that the board president, may execute, in other words, it's not a shall, that you may, if you
Yeah,
believe
definitely.
it's appropriate. And if you have a question or a doubt, you kick it to the next meeting and you get board approval.
It's discretion.
Okay, I'll make those changes and I'll just bring it back to you for next meeting. And that way Janet can. Yeah, I'll circulate that with those changes.
Any other questions?
I think it's a great idea.
Any unscheduled business?
I move for the adjournment of the meeting, sir.
Second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
So before the meeting, we were saying the new county attorney, day one on the job, walks into a hail